So you want humanity to ascend spiritually. You want everybody to be better off and to be closer to the truth. Well, you have to do that through good stewardship. So, this is a monumental task. Good luck. Not to say it can't be done. Not saying that I don't want it done. I think it can be. But let's talk about how it would happen. To start with, the principle laid out in religious texts is the way to receive is to be responsible. To he who has little and does with it much will be given more, etc. The story of the talents. Jesus told a story that a lord of the land gave investments to his servants, and that they went out and they multiplied it. And the ones who multiplied it were rewarded. But the one who did nothing, he was taken away what little he had been given and cursed. What are we to do here? How do we encourage, conscious expansion? How do we make it so that humanity as a whole collectively becomes more conscious of everything and more enlightened, let's call it? Not to be disrespectful to that word when I use air quotes, but it's just used a lot, that word, and a lot of people I don't think really get what it means. Not to say I fully understand it, but the first step, and this is kind of laid out in the Bible in Genesis, the very first thing that happened was God created the world. He put animals and creatures on it, and then he handed it off to Adam, and he said, you will be the caretaker of this garden and the one who watches over these animals to tend and care for them. That's a very important hint at what's going on. What's going on is there are these creatures, animals. They're a lesser form of us humans. You would say they are less conscious. They're not as aware. They're not as enlightened. They're not able to understand what's going on. And Adam has the responsibility to take care of them so that they may have a better environment, maybe breed them, maybe ensure that they're fed, etc. And this is the training wheels, I believe, that God was giving Adam to try and expand consciousness for everything. Just as with the animals, that's our job with humans. If we are people who want to try and help humanity to expand, look at angels, higher beings. Their purpose, more or less, is to look over us, as it's portrayed, and to guide us in a direction. So, if you want humanity as a whole to become more enlightened and more spiritually aware, then you have to be a good steward of them. This is a big concept. God is the ultimate steward. He watches over everything and encourages it. And us reflecting God should be replicating the same pattern, right? Everything is a mirror image of everything else. It's fractals, Fibonacci numbers. The occultists have this idea of as above, so below. It's the same thing, but it's just different polarities, etc. So, what is it that has gotten us to this point anyway in humanity's current condition? Well, it has been being good stewards of the earth. If you think about it, the general idea is we started out as tribal people, a very simple group. We had very basic responsibilities. We hunted, gathered, fostered small communities, and as we mastered those skills, we began to develop technologies such as agriculture, which then created an environment with what we had so that we could produce more. All right, maybe you might get a hint of this now. So when it comes to allowing human consciousness to expand, a very key way it's always happened is there have been very special and significant leaders throughout all of history. Will Durant, the historian, talks about this a lot, that most of all of history is about what people call main characters. This is a common thing now. They say main character syndrome, something like that. And in every country you look, in every time period, the general population in China, France, Germany, anywhere, is really the same. You have a bricklayer who lays bricks, a farmer who farms a field, a pottery maker who makes pottery. But it's these few individuals, Socrates, Confucius, Jesus Christ, whoever, mathematicians, Galileo, Thomas Edison, etc. They are the ones who sit. They tap into the eternal. They gain a higher consciousness or understanding through knowledge, meditation. Sometimes, some people say they even get it from the ether, their information. Nikola Tesla talked about that a lot. He said his inventions came to him in visions. And they then disperse this information, this conscious awareness, out to the masses. But it's when the time is ripe, when the circumstances have become so that those things can emerge. If you can be a good steward of your garden and what's all around us, and you can make systems out of it, you can build a society. You create the conditions for those individuals to arise and then to bring in higher dimensional thinking. So another key aspect of this is these people, these key people, they arise out of statistical probabilities. So let's say if you have an IQ curve, right? The mean is 100 and the peak of the bell. 65, 75 is the lower end. And then you have at the higher end, you're pushing the 150s, maybe the highest person supposedly ever recorded, they're about 200. And those people you can count on your hands. Those individuals that are much more intelligent or have very special characteristics are the ones that come up with this stuff. And statistically, these people are one out of, hundreds of millions. So one approach you could take to this is saying, and this is a very simplistic way of putting it, the larger we create our populations, statistically we'll have more of those people. And more of those people will increase the probabilities of us being able to bring those ideas in. But almost in a weird, dualistic way, you have to be responsible, build up society so that it's sustainable enough to have those larger populations to statistically increase the number of those geniuses or enlightened people. This is all through being a good steward. So as a group, if we want to have humanity ascend, right? If we take each of us individually, our responsibilities seriously, and we try to manage our own garden, which I'm sitting in now, very well, the best that we can, we will create a better functioning society so that we can propagate and have higher quality people. One, in general, if you can get the masses to generally be higher, right? You can do that through building roads, creating electricity, creating food that can be mass distributed, etc. They have their knock-on effects that are negative, but it's allowed us to get to a population of 8 billion people. All right? And then you have to get those very significant people to try and get out there and spread their ideas. And they have to try to put it out to the masses of people. And here's the key: it takes time. It can't just happen with one YouTube video. It can't just happen with one Sunday sermon or temple message, right? The Bible is supposedly the most read book in the world, and it's taken a long time for it to permeate, thousands of years. Same with other religious texts. The Vedas, supposedly, some of the Hindu texts go back 5,000 years, and people are still not aware of that stuff en masse. Right now, I just looked it up, the most viewed YouTube video in all of the world is the baby shark video. You probably know it. It's the most viewed YouTube video in the world, and it has 15 billion views. The video is 2 minutes long. So if we have 8 billion people in the world, that means everyone's seen the video at least twice, right? Now, if you want, from our current conditions, for everyone to be able to elevate, right? Is it going to be done in 4 minutes of video? It's going to take, let's be ridiculous and say 6 hours. It'd probably take years. And it would have to permeate throughout society for us to collectively be able to improve ourselves so that we live in a higher dimensional state so that we can progress even further. That is a challenge, to get a mass movement like that in any type, in any major way. Maybe in smaller, like a lesser effect way, you might be able to do it, but it takes time. And so in order for those things to get ingrained in the psyche of everyone, which really it takes years, we have to keep our world functioning. We have to keep it as efficient as possible. We have to, in order for these messages to spread, we have to always be maintaining our infrastructure. We have to be maintaining our relationships, and we have to do our part, all of us. And that will be the moment we are found worthy. Remember, to whom little is given, more will be given if you take care of it. So we all have to, each of us individually, do first our own part. And then maybe you'll have the responsibility, or maybe you'll have the honor of being someone who gets to spread that out even more, that expanding other people's horizons, helping them ascend spiritually, etc. So the big takeaway here, start with yourself. Start with taking care of your own Garden of Eden and everything that you have to do. All right, that's it for today. Thanks, guys.